And welcome back. We've got a very special guest with us in studio now. Serville Thomas is with LearningRx. It's located at the Carriage Crossings in Collierville, 4680 Merchants Park Circle. I'm going to give you the phone number now, but I'll give it to you later as well, because you're going to want to call this number. It's 901-620-2150. LearningRx. First of all, welcome to the show, Serville.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
And it's very timely because I was just with a friend today who's my age, which is over 65. And he said, man, I'm getting where I can't remember anything more than about 2 seconds.
Yes.
And I told him at the time, I said, well, one thing I think that really helps me is doing my radio show every day for 3 hours. I'm interviewing new people constantly, looking over what they do and asking questions. But it's using your brain.
Yes.
What is LearningRx about? Is it about learning to use your brain again, or for young kids, how to teach them to use it at the very beginning?
Well, both. So at LearningRx, we are cognitive skills trainers. We call ourselves cognitive skills trainers, also known as brain trainers. So we rewire the brain. So the question that you ask, can we help someone who's young? Can we help someone who's an older person or an adult? Absolutely. So what we do is we start with where they are. We first bring them in to do an assessment. The assessment allows us to take a good look underneath the surface of the brain. So not really opening up your head, if you will, but really looking at how does a person process information? How do they learn? We get down to the root cause of the struggle to understand exactly what's holding that person back.
I know that when I was a child growing up, they didn't know what dyslexia was. They didn't know what ADD was.
Yes.
And so they just put me on the dumb road. But then they would give me an IQ test, and I would score extremely high.
Yes.
And they didn't really know what to do with me, and I had to figure out how to study on my own, which meant I had to memorize stuff and over and over again until I really got it. But once I learned to do that, then I was okay, and I made good grades. But there was nobody to help me.
Yes.
That's part of what you guys are doing. You're identifying what the problem is and how to help these young and older people learn.
Exactly. So for yourself back then, you came up with your own accommodations and your own coping skills and how to learn and how to use where you saw there was a deficit, how to strengthen that doing some other things, maybe putting more time in memorizing things or writing a little small list on the side. But for us, what we're doing is trying to help really strengthen those skills so that a person doesn't have to rely on that so much. A lot of the information in our center, when we have you in programs and procedures, we're not going to let you write it down. We want you to use that brain power to really learn and really think about what you're doing. Harness that memory, strengthen those skills and how you solve problems.
Do you use word association?
We do to some degree because that actually helps also with memorizing spelling lists and memorizing lists. Let's say that you're taking a biology class in college and you want to use some study skills and you're trying to develop a good way to study this material. So you can use word associations then to help you remember that material and in the certain orders that it needs to be remembered.
Tutoring, are they the same thing as brain training? I mean, is it a different thing?
Oh, no. It's very, very different. Now, you can think of us in the tutoring space because generally a person who struggles with learning, first thing mom and dad thinks about is going to a tutor. Let's get some help with a tutor. Well, if the person continues to need help with a tutor every time a new subject is taught, every school year, every time we move to a new chapter in the textbook, then more than likely something else is going on that tutoring really can't fix.
Because if they're not, the learning process isn't working, tutoring's not going to help.
Tutoring is doing very much the same thing, redelivering the information that they were being taught. So at LearningRx, what we do is we don't do academic. It's very non-academic. It's very game-like. We like to make it fun, challenging. So we actually are going to work on those cognitive skills. So we're talking about auditory processing, very important for good reading and spelling. We're talking about long-term memory, short-term memory. Those play very important parts when you look at doing mathematics. When you look at reading, we work on comprehension, test anxiety. We also help people who've had traumatic brain injuries.
I think, too, a lot of people say, well, if I have a child and it's too early to go have them tested, But if you start seeing things with your child, even in playing, and saying, do you remember the name of this?
Yes.
What's your puppy's name? What are some red flags you would identify with a very small child?
With a small child, let's say that one of the very first things is, how do they interact with their parent? How do they interact with their friends? So do they give you face contact? Do they look directly at you when you're talking to them? Are they able to remember things? Do they follow directions? Does it appear that you can that they hear you when you're talking? Are they listening, following those directions? And do they interact with others? Those are some things that you want to kind of look at as red flags for the young kids.
Is that why wives say, look at me now when I'm telling you this?
Exactly. Maybe we need to have some of those husbands come in as well. Absolutely.
Well, because it really is. These are all things you learn at a very young age.
You do.
And if they're not practicing those skills, they're going to continue as bad habits all the way. And then,
absolutely.
And I've heard that if you don't catch a child by 4 or 5, then they get behind, and it's very difficult to ever catch up.
It is difficult. I won't say it's impossible. That's why LearningRx has now made its arrival in the Memphis City area. So I won't say it's impossible, but it is very difficult. So until those weak cognitive skills are worked on, it's going to continue to be a struggle. So if you keep working on academics, really, if the person has a weakness in their cognitive skills, that area needs to be addressed before you move forward with anything else.
You mentioned spelling, and I went online to your website, and you've got a little 3-minute quiz that you give, and it talks about, are you better than your age group at this, or are you worse, are you really bad, or are you just horrible at this?
Yes.
And it has a number of things. And I know spelling was one of the things that was in there.
Okay.
Is spelling because I was always really good at history and the thing in English and social sciences, math, and spelling I was terrible at. Was it because I didn't like those things? Or, obviously, I could learn some things.
Right. Well, generally, we do see, good question there, we do see that a lot of times when a person struggles with a particular subject area, a lot of times that is something that they don't like. It's something that they're not good at. And usually, it's going to be because one of those cognitive skill areas are weak. So we want to get down to looking at exactly what that root cause of that struggle is.
Because I guess if you're not interested, you're not going to pay attention.
You're not going to pay attention.
And if you can't pay attention, you're not going to learn.
Absolutely. Attention for us is the gatekeeper. You have to be able to attend to the task. You have to be able to attend to what you're listening to, the information that you're learning. So a person who can't attend and have great attention skills, they're going to have some struggles. Over half of our population in the LearningRx community come in with attention struggles.
And believe me, we all see it every day.
We do. We do.
But how do you start at ground zero and work your way up? Because you can't just slap your hands and say, pay attention. Because they did that with me forever.
Absolutely.
So you have to find a way of challenging them in a way that they want to pay attention.
Yes, absolutely. So we start out with, we have one of our basic procedures called attention arrows. So these are some colorful arrows, and you have to focus on them to tell me the color of them. It's several different colors that are on this chart, and you have to pay attention to those. We easily see that a person's attention span is short because they'll start drifting off, or they'll start becoming bored, or start turning their head, looking other ways in the middle of that procedure. So we start with some very elementary type things.
We're talking with Seville Thomas, who's with LearningRx, and she's located at Carriage Crossing in Collierville at 4680 Merchants Park. You can reach her at 620-2150, but you really do need to go in for consultation. I mean, you can call,
absolutely.
You can take a little quiz I did. But what you're really going to be impressed with is when you bring yourself or your child in and do this consultation and see what they can do in just a few minutes. We're going to talk more about older folks coming in and how that's going to help them, and also what a consultation is like. So we're going to be right back. Stay with us. All right, welcome back with Seville Thomas and LearningRx. They're located in Carriage Crossing in Collierville. The address is 4680 Merchants Park Circle, and the number out there is 620-2150. And Seville, LearningRx is really about helping very young children get on the right track for the day one as early as possible. What is the earliest you would have somebody come in as a child?
Yes, so we actually help even adults as well. We start out at 4 years old, and we go up to 104. So we have adults in our program. We have kiddos in our program who are as young as 4. And that's about the age we feel is where you can start and really do that initial assessment and consultation to see where they're struggling and why.
And so you bring your child in. What would the initial consultation be like?
The initial consultation is more like we start out with the assessment first. So the child comes in and they sit down with us. We use the Woodcock-Johnson battery of tests, which is really the gold standard when it comes to looking at cognitive ability, how a person thinks and processes information. We start out with that. We sit down and we go through several questions and answers. It's very little writing, but it's really like checking how do they think? How do they solve problems? After that, the very next day, and actually that testing takes about an hour and a half, the very next day we'll have mom and dad come in and we'll sit down and go over those test results, show them exactly what we saw, even some of the behaviors that were exhibited. Sometimes a child starts crying when it's tough for them to work. Sometimes they put their head down on their desk. We see them when they're not paying attention. They turn away a lot, begin to become very distracted. We share that type of information with mom and dad and help them understand better what plan they need to put in place to close those learning gaps.
And is even children that are a little bit older, that maybe in the early years, first, second, third grade did okay, but then hit a wall when they get to some of the more difficult math and sciences.
Yes.
And so when you bring them in, is it the same process?
It's the same process. Yes, it is. A lot of times, mom and dad have been seeing some problems with those older kids, even when they were 5 and 6 and 7 years old. But mom and dad kept thinking it's going to go away. It's going to, they're going to grow out of it. Well, they don't grow out of it. So we do the same procedure for them when they come in. We do that testing. A lot of times we see those kiddos, it really begins to kind of start hitting a wall for them with reading in the second and third grade, because really at first they're learning to read, but then everything is based on their abilities to read.
And if you can't do that, then you're really stymied in everything else.
It's quite a struggle. Yes, sir.
Let's talk about older folks.
Okay.
And I know that people, we all kid about it. I got a horrible short-term memory, and
Yes.
I can't find my keys, and I can't find my glasses. So I was actually talking to a guy on a cell phone. He said, I cannot find my cell phone.
Uh-oh.
And I said, you're talking to me on your cell phone. Actually happened.
Wow.
And then people that are looking for the reading glasses, and they're on their head.
Oh, yes.
So identify the person that really should come in and see you for a consultation.
Okay. So, again, we can see all ages from 4 to 104. But I would say that sweet spot is really going to be for that person who really feels like they're held back by something in the brain. So they can't remember things. They see that they go into their manager's office and the manager says, I want you to do this presentation. I want you to do this task. Turn it in the morning. And they leave out of there. They have no memory of what that conversation was about. That kind of person.
That really happens.
Yes, it does happen. And you.
That would be scary, though.
That would be scary.
I'm asking you.
Yes.
I've had the feeling before where I have no idea what I'm going to write about, but and I think that's where part of your creative side comes in. I remember being in college, and we had to do an extemporaneous speech on an abject object.
Okay.
And I was driving, and I thought, I forgot about that test. I saw a screwdriver laying on my floor of my car. I said, I'll do it on a screwdriver. The versatility of a screwdriver.
See?
But it's like I never worried about that. It was the math test I was scared of.
Absolutely. So you're very good at that part. So the part where you struggle a bit, that's the part where you're more concerned about. And that's the part that's going to hold us back a little bit.
And I think that everybody, especially adults, have something that does scare them.
We do.
And that's how you overcome the fear, is there's a reason they're not remembering. That's where you can help them.
Absolutely. We work on both short-term and long-term memory. So if I was to give you a string of digits, 5, 4, 3, 8, 9, and I ask you to give me those digits backwards, reverse it. So would you be able to hold that information in mind and then give it back to me quickly?
Is this a field sobriety test?
It is.
because I don't think I can do
That's
that
too funny.
sober. But I think people do. They sit there, could I do that?
Yes,
And
yes.
then you run into other people. I used to watch Dick Hawley at Channel 5 do the New York Times the puzzle.
The puzzle,
with ink. I mean, who does it with ink?
Whoa, not me.
And he'd do it in about 8 minutes. And I'm sitting there going, showing off.
See?
But that was something he was
very good at that.
Confidence in.
Yes, yes. I'm glad you mentioned confidence because that's one of the top positive feedbacks that we get from our parents is that their children confidence just shoots out the roof. So the child who feels like, or the adult who feels like I can't do it, is really difficult, it's hard, we're able to help strengthen that confidence.
Which oftentimes is the spark that's going to propel them
make the
to
difference.
unknown limits because
Absolutely.
they're afraid to try because if you try and you fail, it's embarrassing.
Yes.
So you just don't even want to do it.
That we see a lot of kids come in our center like that. There was one little guy, he was in the 3rd grade, I believe, and he had this belief that he couldn't read well. He had heard some people saying things, maybe some teachers, and he was very fearful of trying to read even in front of us. But we were able to break through that. That's what we do. That's what makes us different than tutoring. One-on-one, all of our sessions are one-on-one. Sessions last about an hour. We'd like to see a person in our center maybe 3 to 5 times a week for about an hour. All of that information comes about through the assessment and consultation process.
And then how long before you actually start seeing results? On average, I know everybody's different.
Yes, it is different. However, our programs can be as short as about 12 weeks, but then they can go as long as a year. So we don't expect you to see results until you're about halfway, at least halfway through with the program. So really about the second half is when we expect you to start seeing results. Now, with that being said, we have trained, and we're celebrating this in October, 100,000 brains.
Wow.
So there are 80 of our centers in the U.S.
But this is the only one in the state of Tennessee?
Actually, there are some others in Tennessee. There's one in
Memphis.
This is the only one in Memphis. There's one in Chattanooga. There's one in Murfreesboro, and there's one in Nashville.
And what are some of the comments that people have been through this or had the children go through? What are the kind of things they say?
Oh, they say things like, I don't have to be concerned about my child anymore doing their homework. Little Johnny is not forgetting to turn his homework in. We have kids who do their homework, but they forget to turn it in. Wow. Forget to turn it in.
Well, if I had it, I was turning it in.
I know.
That dog ate so much of my homework.
Yes, we don't hear those. We don't hear that excuse anymore.
Well, and that's what you want. You want to be proud of their work.
Yes, more confidence.
Yeah, be the first one to raise their hand in class.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That it is a confidence. It's the same thing with adults, getting their confidence back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then are there exercises you give them outside of the consultation?
We have that ability to do our program all one-on-one in the center, but then you can also partner with us. Well, we can do half of it in the center. Mom and dad can do half at home. Now, the thing about that, you have to be sure the training is done in order for it to be effective and close those gaps. So if your child is one of those who doesn't believe mom and dad knows anything, because that's how my daughter is, then more than likely you're going to want us to do the training in the center. But we have that ability to do either other.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and I wish you'd been around when I was a little kid. It would save me a lot of grief. When those report cards came out, everybody was happy at the dinner table, and then they realized my card hadn't been revealed yet. And then my sister and my brother go, well, we got to pay for this too. Ooh, here comes Earle's report card.
Oh, my goodness.
So we want to make sure you have good report cards out there, and this is one way to do it.
This is definitely one way.
It's LearningRx. They're located at Carriage Crossing in Collierville. The phone number is 620-2150. And give them a call and set up a consultation. It takes about an hour.
About an hour and a half.
You'll see what it's all about, and you really could turn a child's life around.
Absolutely. And we're all about doing that.
And also, if you're an adult and you feel yourself, as we say, starting to slip a little bit, this could make a big change in your life.
Yes, absolutely. Look forward to working with you.
Seville, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
And we look forward to talking to you again, because I think this is going to be helping a lot of folks out there, and word to start getting around, and they're going to have to hire more teachers.
Absolutely. We're in the process of doing that too. I'd like to also mention our website. It's LearningRx.com. So you can look us up online as well as visit us. Yes, please take the test, as well as visit us at the Carriage Crossing Mall. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.